The Sleeping Beauty, a story to learn English. Are you ready to improve your English skills in a fun and engaging way? In this video, we invite you to watch the classic tale of the Sleeping Beauty, told entirely in English. As you follow the story, you'll not only enjoy the beautiful narrative, but you'll also practice your listening, reading, and speaking skills like a native speaker. Immerse yourself in this magical adventure, and by the end, you'll discover the 5 powerful morals that will inspire and teach valuable life lessons. So sit back, relax, and let's begin our journey with the Sleeping Beauty, a royal birth and a wicked spell. Once upon a time, in a distant and peaceful kingdom, there lived a benevolent king and queen who, despite their great love for one another and the prosperity of their land, had longed for many years to have a child. After many prayers and wishes, their dreams were finally fulfilled when the queen gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. The joyous news of the princess's arrival spread across the kingdom, and the hearts of the people swelled with happiness. The king and queen, overwhelmed with joy and gratitude, decided to hold a grand celebration in honor of their precious daughter's birth. The day of the celebration arrived, and the entire kingdom rejoiced. The castle was adorned with the finest decorations, and a lavish feast was prepared. As part of this magnificent occasion, the king and queen invited all the good fairies from across the land, each of whom was known for their wisdom and magic. Their purpose was to bestow blessings upon the newborn princess, ensuring her life would be filled with grace, beauty, kindness, and good fortune. One by one, the fairies approached the princess's cradle, each offering a unique blessing. One fairy blessed her with beauty, promising she would grow to be the fairest in all the lands. Another gifted her with intelligence, so she would be wise beyond her years. A third fairy bestowed upon her the gift of kindness, ensuring that she would be loved by all who met her. Each fairy's blessing was a treasure, and the king and queen's hearts overflowed with joy and hope for their daughter's future. However, amidst the joy and celebration, an ominous shadow loomed over the event. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept through the hall, and the candles flickered. The doors of the grand ballroom flew open, and to the shock and horror of all present, an evil fairy, Maleficent, appeared at the threshold. Maleficent had not been invited to the celebration, for she was feared and despised throughout the land for her dark and malevolent powers. Her very presence caused the room to fall into a fearful silence as her long, dark robes swept across the floor, and her eyes gleamed with malice. With a sneer on her lips, Maleficent approached the cradle of the innocent princess. The king, alarmed, moved to protect his daughter, but the wicked fairy raised her hand, and with a chilling voice, she spoke. "So, you did not invite me to celebrate the birth of this child. You dared to insult me." Her words dripped with venom as she glared at the royal couple. "But fear not, for I too shall give a gift to the young princess." The room tensed with dread as Maleficent leaned over the cradle and, in a slow, deliberate voice, she uttered her cruel curse. On the princess's 16th birthday, Maleficent began, her voice echoing throughout the hall, "She shall prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel. And with that prick, she shall fall into a deep and eternal sleep, from which she will never awaken. Her life will wither away, and all your hopes will crumble into dust." The crowd gasped in horror, and the queen fell to her knees, clutching her daughter tightly, her eyes filled with tears. The king, consumed by rage and desperation, pleaded with Maleficent to take back her curse, offering her anything she desired in exchange for their daughter's life. But the wicked fairy only laughed at a cold, hollow sound that echoed through the chamber like the tolling of a death knell. "I have spoken," Maleficent said with finality, "and there is no power on this earth that can undo my spell." With that, she vanished into a cloud of dark smoke, leaving behind an atmosphere thick with despair. Amid the chaos and grief that followed, the last of the fairies, who had yet to give her blessing, stepped forward. Though she did not possess the power to fully break the curse, she spoke with hope. "I cannot undo Maleficent's spell," the fairy said gently, her voice soothing like a summer breeze, "but I can soften its effect. Though the princess will indeed fall into a deep sleep on her 16th birthday, she will not be lost forever. One day, True love's kiss shall break the spell and awaken her. The king and queen, though still heartbroken, found a glimmer of hope in the fairy's words. Determined to protect their daughter, the king immediately ordered all spinning wheels in the kingdom to be destroyed, hoping to prevent the curse from ever coming to pass. And so, the princess's fate was sealed a life that, for now, remained filled with blessings and love, but overshadowed by a curse that would come to claim her on her 16th birthday, a twist of fate and 100-year slumber. Despite the malevolent curse placed upon their beloved daughter, the king and queen held on to a fragile thread of hope, thanks to the intervention of the good fairy. She had been wise and quick to act, arriving just in time to soften the dreadful spell. Though she could not undo Maleficent's wicked magic entirely, the good fairy used her powerful enchantments to alter its course. With a gentle wave of her wand, she declared, "The princess will not fall into eternal slumber. Instead, should the curse take hold, she will sleep for 100 years. And though her rest will be long and deep, she will not be lost to time. When those years have passed, she may be awakened by a kiss from her one true love." The weight of these words offered some relief to the grieving king and queen. Though their daughter's future was still clouded by uncertainty, the fairy's gift brought hope where once there had only been despair. The king, determined to protect his daughter at all costs, issued a royal decree. Every spinning wheel in the kingdom was to be destroyed, every spindle burned, so that no trace of the cursed object would remain to harm his precious child. For many years, the kingdom thrived under the watchful eyes of the king and queen. The young princess grew into a radiant and kind-hearted young woman, unaware of the dark fate that hovered over her life. Her beauty surpassed even the fairest of flowers, her kindness touched the hearts of all who knew her, and her laughter echoed like music through the halls of the castle. But despite the king's best efforts to eliminate every spinning wheel in the land, destiny had its own plans. On the eve of the princess's 16th birthday, the royal family planned a grand celebration, inviting nobles from far and wide to attend. Yet, amidst the preparations, an air of foreboding hung over the castle, for the king and queen knew that the day foretold in Maleficent's curse had finally arrived. Unaware of the heavy burden her parents carried, the princess roamed the halls of the castle that morning, her heart light and carefree. Her curiosity led her to explore the lesser-known parts of the royal palace. As she wandered through corridors she had never before ventured, she noticed a narrow, winding staircase leading to a forgotten tower. Drawn by an inexplicable force, she ascended the steps, her footsteps echoing in the stillness. At the top of the tower, she found a small, dusty room. It was here, in the forgotten heart of the castle, that fate awaited her. In the center of the room sat an old woman hunched over a spinning wheel. The princess, who had never before seen such a device, was intrigued. "What are you doing, good lady?" the princess asked with innocent curiosity. "I am spinning, my dear," the old woman replied, her voice rasping with age. Fascinated by the spinning wheel's rhythmic motion, the princess stepped closer. "May I try?" The old woman smiled a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Of course, my dear. Come closer." The princess, enchanted by the mysterious contraption, reached out to touch the spindle. In that moment, the inevitable came to pass. As her delicate finger brushed the sharp point, a single drop of blood fell, and with it, the full weight of Maleficent's curse. Her eyes fluttered, and without a word, the princess collapsed into a deep, dreamless sleep. News of the tragedy spread through the castle like wildfire. The king and queen rushed to the tower, only to find their daughter lying still as stone upon the cold floor. In their anguish, they called upon the good fairy once more, begging for her aid. True to her word, the good fairy appeared, her heart heavy with sorrow for the royal family. She could not wake the princess before the 100 years had passed, but she could soften the blow of this cruel twist of fate. "She shall sleep," the fairy said gently, "but she will not sleep alone. All within the castle shall share her slumber." With a sweep of her wand, the good fairy cast her enchantment over the entire palace. One by one, the courtiers, servants, and even the king and queen themselves succumbed to the deep, enchanted sleep. The birds stopped singing, the fires in the hearths burned out, and a stillness fell over the once vibrant castle. The princess's bedchamber, where she now lay upon a magnificent canopy bed, became the heart of this enchanted slumber. Yet, the fairy was not finished. Knowing that the kingdom would be vulnerable in the years to come, she summoned a magical barrier to protect the castle and all who slept within it. From the earth itself, thick vines of thorns sprouted, weaving around the castle walls and forming an impenetrable barrier. The thorns grew tall and dense, sharp as knives, deterring any who might seek to harm the sleeping kingdom. It was as though the entire castle had vanished into legend, hidden from the world by a barrier of enchanted thorns. And so, time passed. The kingdom, now shrouded in mystery and forgotten by many, lay still and silent, encased in its thorny prison. The years rolled on, and as the 100-year slumber stretched forward, tales of the sleeping princess and her cursed castle began to fade into myth. But within the enchanted fortress, the princess slept peacefully, her beauty untouched by the passing of time, waiting for the day when true love's kiss would break the spell and awaken her from her eternal rest. A prince and a kiss. 100 years passed in the kingdom veiled by enchantment. While the castle and its inhabitants slumbered in silence, the outside world moved on, and the legend of the sleeping princess became a distant tale told in whispers. Some believed the story was nothing more than a myth, a bedtime fable to entertain children. Others, however, held on to the hope that deep within the mysterious forest, where no one dared to venture, the princess still awaited her true love's kiss. Far away, in a distant kingdom, a young prince grew up hearing these very tales. Unlike others who dismissed the story as fantasy, the prince was captivated by the idea of a sleeping beauty locked away in time, waiting for a brave soul to free her. As he grew older, the tale of the enchanted kingdom and its sleeping princess began to call to him, filling his dreams with visions of adventure, mystery, and love. One day, driven by a sense of destiny he could not explain, the prince decided to set out on a journey to find the castle hidden behind the wall of thorns. He gathered his most trusted companions and set off on horseback, traveling through forests, across rivers, and over mountains, following every clue, every whisper of the forgotten kingdom. Days turned into weeks, and just when his companions began to lose hope, the prince saw it, a dense, tangled forest of thorns rising up from the earth like a fortress, shielding something ancient within. The thicket was massive and foreboding, with dark, twisting vines so thick they seemed impenetrable. The air around the forest was heavy with an eerie stillness, as if time itself had stopped. Yet, the prince's heart quickened, for he knew that beyond this barrier, the sleeping princess lay waiting. With a determined gaze, he approached the barrier. Drawing his sword, the prince slashed at the vines, but the enchanted thorns resisted his every attempt, growing thicker with each strike. The prince's companions urged him to turn back, fearing that the thorns were too powerful, but he refused to give up. He had come too far, and he was certain that this was his destiny. Summoning all his strength and courage, the prince pressed forward, hacking his way through the brambles. The thorns tore at his skin and armor, but he fought on relentlessly, driven by a vision of the princess and the promise of breaking the spell. At last, after what seemed like an eternity, the prince broke through the final wall of thorns. Before him stood the castle, silent and still, its once grand walls now overgrown with ivy and moss, but no less majestic. The prince dismounted and entered the castle grounds, where the silence was almost deafening. Inside the grand hall, he saw courtiers and servants frozen in time, sleeping where they had fallen, some still standing, others resting on the floor, as if caught in mid-action before succumbing to the enchantment. The entire kingdom lay under the same spell, lost in dreams for 100 years. Undeterred, the prince climbed the winding staircases, guided by something deep, heart, until he reached the highest tower. There, in a room bathed in soft light from the windows, he saw the princess. She lay upon a grand, canopy bed, her golden hair spread like a halo around her head, her face serene and untouched by the passage of time. She looked as though she had just fallen asleep, her delicate hands resting peacefully at her sides. The prince was struck by her beauty, which surpassed all the stories he had heard. She seemed more radiant, more graceful than even his wildest dreams had imagined. Kneeling beside her, the prince felt a deep connection to the sleeping princess, as though their fates had been intertwined long before he had ever heard her tale. He knew, in that moment, what he had to do. Leaning down, he pressed a gentle kiss to her lips, a kiss filled with hope, love, and the promise of awakening. As his lips touched hers, a wave of magic rippled through the air. The curse that had bound the princess and her kingdom for 100 years began to unravel. Slowly, the princess stirred. Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes as clear and blue as the summer sky. She blinked, disoriented, her gaze meeting the prince's. For a moment, there was silence as the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a soft, confused smile, she spoke. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice like a melody long forgotten. The prince smiled warmly, helping her sit up. "I am the one who has come to wake you," he replied gently. "I am your true love." As the words left his lips, the magic that had held the kingdom captive for a century finally broke. Outside, the thick walls of thorns began to wither and crumble into dust, revealing the castle once more to the world. Within the castle, the courtiers and servants began to stir, stretching and yawning as though they had merely been asleep for a few hours rather than 100 years. The king and queen awoke as well, rushing to the tower to find their beloved daughter alive and well. Tears of joy and relief filled the queen's eyes as she embraced her daughter, while the king clasped the prince's hand, offering him heartfelt thanks for his bravery. The entire kingdom rejoiced as the news spread. The curse was broken, the princess was awake, and the kingdom had been restored. In the days that followed, the prince and the princess grew close, their bond deepening with each passing moment. The kingdom celebrated their union with a grand feast, inviting rulers and nobles from all the surrounding lands. The love between the prince and the princess blossomed, and soon they were married in a ceremony of unmatched splendor. With the curse behind them, and the kingdom restored to its former glory, the prince and the princess ruled together with wisdom and kindness. The kingdom prospered under their reign, and the story of the brave prince and the beautiful princess who had waited 100 years for love became legend, passed down from generation to generation. And so, as the fairy tale promised, they lived happily ever after, their love enduring through the ages, unshaken by the trials of time. Here are 8 morals of the story from Sleeping Beauty. True love conquers all obstacles. No matter how insurmountable the challenges may seem, love has the power to overcome darkness, curses, and time itself. Patience and perseverance are rewarded. The prince's unwavering determination to find and rescue the princess teaches us that persistence and bravery will ultimately lead to success, even when the odds are against you. Kindness and goodness triumph over evil. Despite the wicked fairy's curse, the princess's inner beauty, kindness, and the goodness of those who protect her ensure that she is not lost to darkness, showing that evil may cause hardship, but it cannot win in the end. The importance of foresight and caution. The king and queen's efforts to protect their daughter from the curse remind us that it is wise to be proactive in preventing harm, even if not all dangers can be avoided. Good always has the power to soften the effects of evil. Though the curse could not be completely undone, the good fairy's intervention shows that positive forces can always mitigate negative ones, bringing hope even in dark times. Destiny cannot be completely escaped, but it can be altered. No matter how hard the king and queen tried to prevent the curse, the prophecy still came true. However, the curse's full effect was changed, showing that while fate may be inevitable, it can still be influenced. Time does not diminish true beauty or goodness. The princess's beauty and virtue remain untouched after 100 years, symbolizing that true inner qualities are timeless and enduring. I hope you enjoyed doing this exercise in your native English learning by watching this video, and that it was useful to you. If you want, you can share this video with other people so that they can also learn to speak this powerful language. Remember that on the channel The Corner to Speak English, you will find more interesting content that will allow you to further consolidate your knowledge. Review the content as many times as you want. You can also leave me your comments, tell me about your experience, ask me questions, or suggest a special topic for the next video, I will love to read and answer you. Thank you very much for your attention, and until next time,